person will do anything to stay alive. So after they turned me, I decided to start over. Took his looker. Who are you?
I'm Vanessa Murray's daughter from Elk River. You'd passed through 15 years ago.
Tell your mother she's mistaken.
She died 3 weeks ago.
And how'd you find me?
The internet. I can go out during the day. Always wear sunscreen, SPF a million, avoided recess, but...
Let me see your teeth. Oy vey.
Told you.
She's definitely yours.
What the hell am I supposed to do?
Be a person.
I'm not a person.
I don't have anyone. There's no one there.
What do you think this is? You think that I've got someplace that I can take you? Like the Bat Cave?
You're feeling a little conflicted. You can imagine how I feel. As a vampire who was also a teenager.
Find something that you and your kid connect on. Something you could do together.
Maybe we could go on a little trip.
Seeing a family member can be very therapeutic.
Just give me a taste.
This whole thing was a mistake.
What do you want from me?
Everything!
I don't have anything!
I'm not mad. I'm
Disappointed?
impressed.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the latest episode of Fresh Cuts. This is Mike. Joining me, as always, it's Mr. Venom. What's up, Venom?
Greetings and salutations, bloodsuckers. Yeah, I am doing very well, Mike. How the hell are you doing?
Pretty good. First day back after Thanksgiving holiday, so...
Was it
came back
Thanksgiving?
to,
I didn't notice.
Yeah, came back to, work queues overloaded, but yeah, it is what it is. They'll get back to normal volume soon enough.
Mm-hmm. Well, I had a lot of Chinese food for Thanksgiving, so that was my Thanksgiving.
Nice.
Unfortunately, Mrs. Venom had to work, and my family's all back east, so yeah, Thanksgiving tends to... Well, any holiday where Mrs. Venom has to work, it tends to be just kind of a lonely night for old Mr. Venom sitting around the house enjoying his little holiday meal. But I love Chinese food, so I was thankful for that.
I'm about ready to trade in Thanksgiving food for Chinese food because I'm kind of tired. I'm kind of over the 2 to 3 days of leftovers afterwards. It's like I'll eat it that night, and maybe if I have leftovers for a quick lunch the next day. But other than that, I don't need leftovers in my fridge for a week anymore. I'm just not into it.
Yeah, Thanksgiving is the November equivalent of Halloween, where we end up having candy in the house for 3 weeks after Halloween.
Mm-hmm. All right. Also with us, it's Don and Ellie. What's up, Don? How are you?
Not bad. Unlike you, Thanksgiving leftovers is the only reason why my family celebrates, because we can't stand eating food, but we still like having the leftovers for some reason.
Actually, I prefer the leftovers to the fresh food. I don't know why.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying is we prefer the leftovers as well. We actually make what we call turkey bowls, which is Yeah, so real quickly, so what we do is we lay a ground floor of mashed potatoes and then dump stuffing, turkey, corn, whatever, other vegetables you want. Layer that on top, stick it in the microwave for a couple of minutes, and voila, fresh meal.
Thanksgiving bowls. I love it.
It reminds me of the KFC bowls they had for a while. Maybe they still have them.
They still do, yeah. Yeah, I haven't had KFC in years, but yeah, my wife, I'll get it occasionally for the missus, and yeah, it's still on the menu.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We look forward to that more than actually sitting down for the meal for some reason. So yeah, that's kind of been the Thanksgiving tradition for the Saturday/Sunday afterwards. Is we usually have one of those. So we look forward to that more than the actual meal itself. I think because we've sat around with each other for the past year or two. But yeah, that's kind of been our tradition. So we look forward to the leftovers more than the meal itself.
Love it.
All right. Well, for tonight's meal, we are talking
Probably
about
should have
a
said that.
movie.
Probably should have had that kind of a discussion for last week's episode.
Yeah, valid.
All right. Well, we're talking a movie that's streaming on Shudder currently. It's called Blood Relatives, and let's see, it's billed as a comedy horror. I'd say pretty accurate there. I mean, well, I'll say it can qualify with both tags, but we'll get into more on that. But a vampire's loner lifestyle is thrown into disarray when a teenager shows up claiming to be his daughter, and she's got the fangs to prove it. On a road trip across America's blacktops, they decide how to sink their teeth into family life. All right. Let's start with general thoughts on this one. Venom, what did you think of Blood Relatives?
This may be a little bit of a surprise, but I absolutely loved this movie. I'll caveat my review by saying that horror is a stretch for this one. Yes, it is about vampires, but there's no there's not the traditional vampires stalking their prey. I mean, there's one minor scene at the beginning, like the first kill of the film, that has some traditional vampire tropes to it. But for the most part, this is a movie about a relationship. This movie is solidly about Francis and Jane, father and daughter, reuniting after, well, not reuniting, but uniting, because obviously our titular vampire, Francis, doesn't know that he had a daughter. So this is a complete shock to him. But man, right from the start, I absolutely love this girl. She is whip smart. She has a memory retention of 4 elephants. I mean, the information that she was able to pop out of her head, that just as an actress memorizing a script, I was impressed, let alone as a 15-year-old vampire hybrid, searching for her father. I thought she was funny as hell. Maybe not like drop dead funny, like side splitting by any stretch, but I chuckled a lot throughout this movie. There's multiple characters in here that I thought were great. The doctor at the mental facility I thought was awesome. She was so quirky for no reason, which for some reason I ended up enjoying. And, obviously, like I said, this movie isn't a horror movie. It's solidly a relationship film. It's a character study. It's, it's a vampire trying to go against his normal ways to try to normalize himself in society. It's almost like a Dexter story, if you will. Anybody who watched the old show, Dexter, I say old, it was like 10 years ago, but the show Dexter on Showtime, where Dexter was a serial killer who kills serial killers. This show had a lot of that element in it, in the sense that, our vampires, they prefer to take out bad people or animals when they can. The daughter is a hybrid vampire. She's, basically a day walker. She can go out in the sunlight. So she's got, both the benefits of being a vampire and being human. And she's kind of learning the ropes, about being a vampire, what it entails. She's obviously, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. She's only 15 years old. Her mother just passed away. So I don't know, just all of these elements put together for me make a cute little movie. I don't know that this is something I'll ever return to. It's not something that I need to have in my collection, but I found this movie incredibly heartwarming. I know the ending is a little bleak, not bleak, but like it just kind of stops. Like it almost feels like there's a scene missing. But I did kind of enjoy that, because the movie, just like with The Platform from a few years ago, the movie ends with a sense of hope. And I love that about this movie. I loved it. So like I said, I loved the characters in it. Beautiful score. I absolutely adore this score. We get some great Vivaldi classical music throughout. We get some rock and roll mixed in. And then the score itself, I even wrote it down. It has elements of a movie. I'll bring it up later. It reminded me of the score of another movie. Oh, it was 3 from Hell. The score from 3 from Hell, specifically the third act when they go to Mexico. It has kind of like a Tex-Mex score. This movie, when they were driving through Texas, kind of had the same sort of thing. So this isn't a movie that's going to, I've said this before, I'll say it many, many more times. This movie isn't going to change the world. It's not going to be anybody's favorite movie of the year. But I thought that this was a cute little movie, very effective. And I really have very few complaints about it. I mean, yeah, I wish there was more blood. I wish there was more kills, blah, blah, blah. I wish it was a legitimate horror movie, because honestly, it's not. Pigeonhole the movie, if you will, as a comedy horror. the comedy, like I said, it's not like side splitting by any stretch. It's just you're going to chuckle. You're going to find, assuming, you kind of have the same sensibility as I do, you're going to find these characters charming. You're going to be invested in their travels, up and down the road. Just the long and the short of it is I had a great time with this movie. I love these characters. And yeah, I just had a really great. It's going to be hard for me to recommend this movie to anyone. I would say maybe people who like The Black Phone and the relationship between the brother and sister in that movie, they might get into this movie a little bit, maybe even a little bit of what was the Wendigo movie, Antlers. That Antlers film where there was a brother and sister dynamic, and that one that worked for some people, didn't work for others. So I think if you're a fan of either of those movies or movies like that, I think you'll enjoy this one. But it's definitely going to be a hard recommend for standard genre fans.
All right, let's jump over to Dawn. What did you think of Blood Relatives?
I actually don't have much else to add because I'm right in lockstep with Venom 100% on this one. I had a great time with this one. Horror is a bit of a stretch. Relationship drama comedy with sprinklings of horror is an accurate description of this one. Maybe to a detriment, like he said, because you kind of would want a little bit more of a fully fleshed out horror tale with this. But yeah, it's still a lot of fun. Considering she's a vampire, I think the girl would be a great sarcastic neighbor on a sitcom. She's got a great. She would be like the troublesome girl that has a heart of gold or something, but she's always there to put somebody down. She has that kind of a sense of humor, which is it adds a nice little sprinkle to everything. The relationship that emerges is fun. You kind of lose track of the fact that they're vampires because it's not really that important to it. You take one scene out of this one, or maybe two sequences. I mean, you can probably eliminate the sequence in the auto yard at the beginning, and maybe the motel encounter. But other than that, you don't really get much in the way of actual horror output here. You could very easily just call this a relationship drama and be fine with it. It's very quick, very fast. You're never really bored. If you're looking for more straight up horror, it could be a little bit because you're not getting as much. But yeah, in terms of a film, I don't have too many complaints. It's kind of light on horror, much like last week's was. But I don't have too many complaints about it. I had fun with it, and not being horror enough being the main real complaint here, much like it was last week. So, yeah. I don't have much else to add. There's not much I can really offer much else on input here, but yeah, fun time. Maybe not horror enough, but close enough to count, and it's still fun for what it is. So, yeah, I don't have much else to add for that.
All right. Well, I'm just going to start off by saying that, wow, I thought I was going to have to come in here and defend the shit out of this movie, but I guess not. So, yeah, I had a fun time with it. It's like a small little story, but it's pretty endearing. I found the narrative and the relationship between the estranged father and daughter to be pretty believable. And I agree. I almost feel like the script, maybe originally they weren't even vampires and it was just like more of a straight up like drama movie, and then they thought, okay, but how do we market this? And maybe, okay, well, we can make it more quirky by making them vampires. But I thought the general theme of the movie, which seems to be, kind of finding your place, in the world, or I guess just as a person, the way the daughter's kind of searching, and is she happy with what she finds, and kind of working through those issues that would come up in this situation. It was pretty effective. What else? I mean, I agree with you guys that the horror elements are nil. I mean, they're there because they are vampires, and we get a couple scenes to remind us that vampires still have to do vampire things. But other than that, that's not the main crux of it. It's a story about an estranged. I would say more from the daughter. The daughter estranged from the father. Um, but yeah, I thought the pair worked well together on screen. I thought the writing was pretty good and it was well acted, and it was a good way to do a small scale story. And I found it entertaining and, like I said, pretty endearing and believable conclusion. And not a whole lot else to say. It's another just under 90 minutes, so it's a pretty quick watch. And movies like this are why I like Shudder. Other than like when they get the bangers that you're like waiting for, and they're the only ones that pick them up. It's kind of like movies like this that I probably would have never heard of without this being on Shudder. It might have been buried somewhere on like a different app where I never even come across it because it's just profiled so low down the list of movies where Shudder throws it right on their featured list to see. So yeah, good time. Probably not a top 10, but who can? I mean, for the purpose of this, it doesn't matter. I still enjoyed it, and I would recommend it to everybody. Really, I think as long as you like or as long as you can be down for a movie that, while it says comedy horror, the horror elements are very light. I think you would have a good time with it. I know I did, and I think the strength is really in the story. And if you're down for a good story, that would be this.
Definitely the story, these performances. Like I said, I felt like everyone in this movie was very organic. Even the over-the-top characters, like I said, the mental facility doctor who just had an ear-to-ear shit-eating grin on her face the entire time. Like, I thought she was actually a patient, especially when she actually takes Jane and puts her in that guy's room, and then she looks at her and says, "I got to close the door behind you. It's policy." And then she gives this sly smile like, wait, is there something ulterior going on here? Like, I just love that element. Just very entertaining characters, and cool to see some actors that we're familiar with too. I mean, we get Doug Benson at the beginning. I know not exactly an A-list celebrity, but I'm a big fan of Doug Benson. His podcast and his old MTV show. Like, I dig all that. And just to see him in this movie, granted, much fatter than he's ever been, but hey, with success comes comfort. So I understand. But yeah, just seeing him as that clerk at the beginning, he's the clerk at the very first gas station scene there, who's basically giving our vampire some shit because he showed up 5 minutes before closing time. Oh man, let me tell you, as a retail customer, there have been many times when I've wanted to kill someone inside of a store because I got there 5 minutes before the official closing time, but they had already locked the door. Oh my God. So yeah, I completely sympathize with the vampire here. It's like he was so polite too. Like, even after the character was being really, really rude to him, he still was just endlessly polite. And, we find out later why he tries not to get mad and why he's so polite to everyone. But it just, like, Doug Benson, I'm sorry, but that character deserved exactly what he got. So that's definitely more of a guilty pleasure kill. Not that we get to see anything, of course, but yeah, just little scenes like that really, really worked for me, man. And then when you find out more of the backstory of this particular vampire, I love this backstory. This might get into spoiler territory, so I won't really talk about it right here. But I absolutely loved his backstory. It explains so much about his mannerisms, even the way he talks. I mean, it's very obvious that he's of a certain, nationality or religion, if you will. And then we get a deeper explanation of it later on. And it's just so fulfilling to me. And on top of the fact, guys, that, we all know how vindictive and petty I am. So to actually see this type of character become a vampire, I applaud this movie. I totally do. And yeah. Oh, man, what else can we say that's kind of spoiler free here? Like I said, I love this girl. I love Vanessa Morales. who plays Jane. Excuse me, Victoria Morales, who plays Jane. I just thought what a great performance. Even when she's angry and being kind of how can we put it, a petulant teenager, she's still, something about her face is still entertaining. She has this sly smile throughout the film that just, you know, makes me chuckle every single time I see it. Just a really, really easily likable character. Everybody in this movie, I mean, that's the thing. It's like, these are vampires, but they are legitimately the protagonists of this film. Like, they are not evil people. You know, I mean, Cthulhu bless this guy. He's trying his best not to go around just being a mad vampire who just kills anyone who crosses his path, you know? And
yeah, I like that they played it pretty straight, even though, you know, he is a vampire, but like in I guess normal human settings, people would just treat him like a normal dad or a single dad trying to repair the relationship. I like the therapy scene when he's trying to explain like his situation, and one of the other dads in there just kind of responds like as if, you know, the issues are exactly the same, because for all he knows they are. And I liked they grabbed Tracy Tomes, or I think she was like the leader of I don't know if she was a therapist or just kind of the leader of leading the group as Michelle.
I think she was the principal of that school that Francis took Jane to, right. And then she also ran the support group. Yeah,
that's right. She was the principal. Doug Benson got a little cameo at the beginning. That was unexpected. And I maybe because I was trying to think like, why does the movie seem paced so well? Maybe because of the smaller scale story, but they kind of work it into being a semi-road movie where they're constantly moving. Totally. Maybe that helped just kind of push the pacing and the story along, because it feels like it kind of cruises by. Like I threw it on a second time while I was working, and it was like almost in no time it was already to that therapy scene, and I was like, wow. And I checked the timestamp, and it was like, yeah, there's only 10 minutes of movie left. And I was like, wow, okay, not bad.
Yeah, definitely as I mentioned earlier, it's definitely more of a heartwarming ending. Like, you know, it's not going to be a big, plot twist or big reveal or, a big action sequence where they get, the vampires gotta get out of town or whatever. No, nothing like that. I mean, honestly, I don't think there even is an action sequence in this movie. Like I said, everything happens off screen. We only really get a little bit of blood throughout the movie, and that's one particular scene where we see the aftermath of what the girl ended up doing to some boys who maybe touched her a little bit more than they should have. But and that's even right there, that scene right there, as my petty vindictive self, I absolutely love that scene. This movie gave me a lot of the elements that Piggy didn't. And I'm sorry to bring up a movie we're not talking about, but like, everyone has been praising Piggy, and Piggy is a good movie. I'm not going to deny that it's good, but being the shitty, petty person that I am, I wanted that movie to go into a different direction, and it ended up going in a completely different direction than I wanted. Doesn't make the movie bad. It just it kind of lowers my entertainment value of it. Whereas this movie, in one scene, we get that kind of pettiness that I love, of these three teenage boys, messing with a girl. 9 times out of 10, hell, 99 times out of 100, those boys are going to get what they want out of that girl. But today, they just happened to go after a vampire, and I fucking loved it. Even though we didn't get, the actual scene where she takes them out, I still fucking love the fact that she did it. Love the fact that she was a little bit scared, because that was her first human attack, even though she has been feeding on blood, mostly from animals and very, very rare meats, if not raw meats. So, yeah, just that element, that pettiness of it, it served me so well. So, yeah, I'm giddy just thinking about this movie. It's just such a fun little movie, Like I said, if you go in with low expectations, you're not getting an interview with the vampire. You're not getting Bram Stoker's Dracula. Hell, you're not even getting, shit. What was the vampire movie on the plane that we reviewed a couple of years ago? Blood Red Sky. Thank you very much. Yeah, you're definitely not getting Blood Red Sky. That movie was filled with action. But like I said, you're getting a sweet little relationship. And honestly, I can see people appreciating this movie who aren't genre fans, like, single dads and, angsty teenagers who, might pick this up somehow, see it on Shudder or whatever, and actually get something out of it, some actual emotionality. Like, there was some legit emotional scenes here, but one of the things I like about this movie is that there's emotion in this movie without ever being sappy. I fucking hate when, movies get sappy and they try to tug at the heartstrings, or they try to, get you to cry, tear jerkers, if you will. You don't get any of that here, but you get the solid, raw emotion of these people trying to figure out their lot in life without the sap, and I fucking loved it.
Yeah, I could think you could throw it in under the same umbrella as like and this other one has I would even say that one has a little more horror-y stuff in it, but like a Jacob's Wife, where
yeah,
that kind of family, it almost feels like a family friendly story, and the horror is light enough to where like you wouldn't be nervous to show it to like non-horror fans, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a great. I think this would be a great kind of introduction to horror, especially if it's a single dad showing it to his daughter. A dad who's a big horror fan, and he's trying to get his daughter into horror, and maybe she's not getting into Monster Squad or Gremlins, the way that we all did as kids. And this could be something, especially like I said, if she's an angsty teenager with a single dad, I think she can pull something out of this movie. So just to see actual real world value in what is basically a vampire movie, just it makes my heart feel good. Let's just say that.
And the world's a better place when Venom's heart feels good. So
my friends, yeah, California is a much sunnier place when Mr. Venom's in a good mood, I assure you. Anything else you guys want to bring up that's spoiler free? Not that there's many spoilers in this movie to begin with. I mean, like I said, there's no real plot twists, no, big aha moments. Just a sweet little story.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. The way the story's crafted, there's not really much to spoil. It's just kind of, the daughter on her journey to kind of finding belonging. I mean, that's kind of what I think the main theme is, her looking for belonging and trying to make sense make sense of the situation. And being a teenager, you're seeking out answers to questions that have arisen from your situation. So it's not like we get major reveals. Like, it's not an overly complicated reason for why everything is happening. It's just kind of, you're just along for the ride, I guess.
Yeah. And like I said, great score, great car. The Barracuda in this fucking movie is awesome. I fucking love Barracudas. So maybe it speaks to me more than others. But yeah, Barracudas and Novas have always been like my favorite muscle cars. So seeing this absolute beauty in this movie definitely put a smile on my face. I guess we can go on into quote unquote spoilers. There's not really a whole lot to spoil, like I said. As Mike said earlier, this is a story of a vampire who is a loner. He's lived by himself for, what turns out to be decades. As the movie goes along, we'll find out more about Francis. But let's get into it right now, because I'm not really going to do a walkthrough for this one. I mean, we pretty much already went through the walkthrough in the non-spoiler section, because like I said, this is, such a plot twist free movie that there's not really much to spoil. But the backstory of this vampire, I really, really appreciate. As it turns out, this vampire was a dad in the Holocaust. Yes, my friends, we have a Holocaust survivor here. And apparently the way that he described it, and guys, tell me if I got this wrong, because I only did watch the movie once today. I was pretty busy this weekend, but it almost sounded like he implied that the Germans did this to him. The Germans somehow vampirized this guy and then were fucking with him, because he even talked about how they were planning on killing him. They only turned him so that they could kill him. Kind of a weird backstory, but I mean, we see the pictures of his family. He used to have a daughter. He used to have a wife. Obviously, they didn't survive the internment camps. He ends up sneaking back into the U.S. inside of a coffin of one of the dead Jews. As they ship all the coffins of the Jews back to their family, he basically stowed away in one of the coffins, and pretty brilliant in my opinion. But Yeah, I mean, what do you guys think of this backstory? I just fucking love it. The fact that this guy's a Holocaust survivor and now he's going around trying to right some injustices, including his own. I kind of dig it. What you guys think?
It's a fun backstory. I kind of like it. It adds a different depth to him that most vampires don't really get. I mean, short of Dracula, I don't really know if there's much of a backstory on most other vampires. So, I mean, that kind of takes into consideration just as much as, what the actual backstory is itself.
Yeah, and it kind of helps set up a reasoning or justification for why he ends up such a loner, like after that, and why he kind of is where he is in life. And imagine like carrying those memories for like eternity, right? Until like someone stakes you or you willingly die in the sun, but he's gonna live a long time with like the horrors of that in his head. So the fact that he ends up like a loner, like kind of just moving around all the time, makes sense.
Yeah. I really like how his musical taste hasn't evolved since World War II. I mean, all he listens to is classical music. All throughout the movie, he's listening to Vivaldi. It's pretty much all he's listening to. I love that. It does seem interesting that he lives in a modern world, but doesn't, like the internet was like a foreign concept to him when the girl was talking about it, and hashtags and, Facebook and shit like that. That was kind of a cute scene. Obviously, whenever you've got a 100-year-old vampire, and not to say that this guy's, I mean, if this guy was like in his 30s or 40s during the Holocaust, that was in the late 30s, and that was what, like 70, 80 plus years ago. So the guy is probably, in the neighborhood of 125 to 150. So he's lived a good amount of time. But the fact that he's kind of not embraced any new technologies or music or cinema or any kind of, art, any modern art, I kind of like that. He sticks to his guns. He knows he loves his music. Maybe it was his wife's favorite music and he just listens to it because it reminds him of his wife and daughter. Who knows? But I did really like that. And then when we do get the backstory of, him being a Holocaust survivor, it explains all the Jewishisms that he's been speaking throughout the film, which I thought were fucking adorable. I mean, he's using words like schlep and fakakta and meshugana. He actually says meshugana in the movie, which is one of my favorite Yiddish words ever. My favorite band in the world, for those who don't know, is Meshuggah, and not the same thing, I know, but when I hear a hardcore Jew say Meshuggah, it just always tickles me. I love it. So yeah, it also explains the politeness a little bit because, he is a Holocaust survivor. You did what you were told when you were in there, and he's an extremely polite person. Every human that he interacts with, he's very polite. Even when they try to antagonize him, he just smiles. He just gives them a wry smile and, doesn't engage in the hatred or, and I just love that. He's endlessly polite. And that's another, thing that maybe we haven't seen so much in the vampire genre is, an incredibly polite vampire who actually regrets killing people when he has to. So again, the reluctant vampire isn't necessarily a new concept, but to see a guy who's been a vampire this long, who still isn't a hunter killer like most vampires become, I liked it. It adds a nice element to it. And obviously, Jane, when she shows up, we mentioned during the spoiler-free section how whip smart she is and just spouting off all this information. I mean, they literally have a 2 to 3 minute conversation just about cars when they first meet, and it's fucking brilliant. It means nothing to me, but if you're a car person, I would be really interested to know if everything that they were speaking was accurate. All the different parts of the cars that they were talking about, the 383 compared to the 272 or whatever the case may be. You know what I mean? It was believable for me. So I enjoyed it. And, like I said, this girl, I mean, obviously because she's half vampire, she does have, added abilities. Her memory, I mean, obviously her memory has improved. It has, is better than the average human 15-year-old girl. I mean, this girl's 15 and she has the intelligence of a college professor. And I love that. So obviously her information retention is amazing. And obviously, like I said, the fact that she can go out in the daylight, she actually even says that line in the movie to her father. She says, it might be convenient to have somebody who could do stuff for you during the day. And he looks at her like, oh shit, that's kind of right. Like, I don't even know why he didn't think of that before, but there you go. So, and obviously this is a rogue vampire. This is a loner. He lives in his car. He lives in his Barracuda. Basically, he just finds shaded spots during the day where he can park his car, cover it with a tarp, and then just sleep in the back seat. Obviously, that seems incredibly dangerous to me, but you know, it seems like eventually someone's going to come up to your car, either trying to steal it or, you know, trying to vandalize it maybe in the middle of the day. And what are you going to do? You're going to get out of the car and die in the sun. So definitely risky, but, you know, it worked out for him. We never had that uncomfortable situation of a cop chasing him in this movie, which, again, I really like that. You know, you don't get a lot of the same tropes of vampires being caught or exposed or whatever. I just really like that. It seems like the people that are loyal to Francis in this movie remain loyal to him. Even a camp counselor that he bit years earlier with the intention of killing him and feeding on him, but because in the middle of his attack, some people showed up and he basically just had to leave. He and the person that he attacked had to hide somewhere. I forget how long they said they had to hide. But because they were hiding, he decided not to kill the guy. And of course, the guy becomes a vampire. And the scene with him in the mental facility, I thought that was a great little scene because, you know, you're expecting this guy to be either just completely terrified because, oh shit, the daughter of the vampire who attacked me is now here to visit me. He even has the line, "Are you here to finish the job?"
Yeah.
But the fact that he's so loyal to Francis was such a surprise. Like, I'm expecting one of two things, either fear or disdain. Either he's going to hate Francis for what he did to him, or he's going to be terrified that Francis is going to show up one day and finish the job. But instead, he basically turns into Renfield. He's basically like, what can I do for the master? And that just, you know.
I like how it flips because she's the one that ends up feeling awkward in the scene, almost astonished at that guy's loyalty, and you know just how loyal he's been because when the nurse practitioner brings her in there, I think she mentions like, yeah, he's catatonic, he doesn't even talk anymore, so he's kind of just been like almost maybe acting just to like lay low, and then the minute she's there, he like just immediately starts talking. So yeah, that scene was pretty good.
Yeah, it definitely shows that the guy is solidly a vampire because he instantly knew that this girl had something to do with his master. He didn't know what. He probably smelled Francis on her and said, "Oh, you're with him, aren't you?" And then the fact that he just becomes so loyal and basically says, "What can I do for the master? Anything, name it, I will do it." And he does end up doing exactly what he promises, and everything works out. Like there's no twist where, you know, suddenly the cops are chasing him because they found out that this girl took these records from this place. No, man. I love that this movie doesn't have, what's the word I'm looking for? Forced peril, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like pigeonholing them in a situation where they have to fight to get out or they have to race against the clock to beat the sun. You know, we don't get shit like that here. And in this particular instance, I appreciate it. I really enjoyed it. As Mike mentioned earlier, there's a support group scene after Francis and Jane move to their new town where he's, you know, starting to plant roots. He puts her in a school. The principal of that school, you know, is obviously also the head of this support group. And yeah, the support group scene is great because, you know, this guy's talking about not really being on the same level with his daughter or not really knowing if he's doing the right thing. But it's more, he's coming from the angle of I'm a vampire who's a new dad. But like Mike said earlier, the fact that some of the guys in the group give him advice that fits the situation, even with him being a vampire. And even the advice that he gets at the end as he's leaving by the support group head, where she's like, just find common interests. And I'm thinking to myself, you're both vampires. You should already have common interests. But no, after that scene, they finally decide, okay, let's go out and try to, you know, kill somebody together. And of course, the comedy of that scene is that it all goes to shit. They don't get to kill the guy. The guy ends up puking on right in Jane's face. It turns into comedy. You know, we're expecting an intense vampire kill, and it just turns into a slapstick scene, and I absolutely loved it. So yeah, kudos there again. At one point in the movie, Francis calls raw meat junk food. I found that interesting. I guess to a vampire that would be junk food. Blood is obviously what they need to sustain themselves, but she's obviously eating raw meat because that's all she needs. Because she's a hybrid, she doesn't need to be constantly feeding on blood. She can eat raw meat and she's getting all the blood, all the hemoglobin that she needs, she's getting from that raw meat. So that works for her. If that works for her and she doesn't have to kill anybody, rock on. But then, of course, we do get the scene where, she runs into these 3 local boys in Nebraska. They try to get her stoned, but she can't get stoned, obviously, because she's a vampire. She has an incredible tolerance. So literally the 3 boys are all, stoned as shit. And then the one basically tries to assault her. I love the line the kid says, like it's almost polite. He literally says to Jane, "Oh, you don't have to touch it. Just watch me." And I'm thinking, how's that any better, you fucking asshole? It doesn't make any sense to me. But again, they're young. They don't know what the fuck they're talking about. So I'll cut them a little slack. But yeah, obviously my pettiness inside, knowing that Jane took all 3 of these guys out. And the next morning we see the 3 dead bodies. We see Jane asleep on a hay bale, and then above her we see all 3 dead bodies on another bale of hay. So that turned out to be a great scene. And then Dad, of course, shows up at that moment and helps her clean the scene, if you will. And by clean the scene in this instance, it means torch everything, because obviously we see the vampire torch the gas station where he attacked Doug Benson earlier, and now he's torching this barn that has 3 dead bodies in it. So he obviously has his MO, and it seems to be working for him because obviously, as we said, it doesn't seem like he has anybody on his tail. I was fully expecting a vampire hunter character to show up at some point, but luckily, again, they subverted that expectation. And like I said, just gave us this sweet, sweet little movie. I did enjoy how Francis did. It felt like he was turning human. Like literally after the support group, after he had been working for a couple of months at a garage, and they have an argument that literally ends with Jane screaming, "I hate you," which I'm thinking, you fucking searched this guy out. Again, Jane is 15, but she obviously had an idyllic vision in her head of what she was going to find. Like her dad was going to be all open arms and, "Oh, yay, let's go out and kill people together. And we're going to spend all our time together," and blah, blah, blah. And obviously that's not who Francis is. He's always been a loner. He's been kind of thrust into fatherhood, and he's trying his best, but, it's still something he's never tried before. So he's learning the hard way. And, like I said, the fact that he starts to actually almost turn human, like he turns into an alcoholic at one point, even though he's drinking throughout the movie. The one scene when he gets into the argument with Jane, he's got like 8 empty beer bottles next to him and he's still drinking. I'm like, my God, I've seen this in how many movies have we seen this in? Teenage daughter arguing with her drunk father. I mean, it was Beverly Marsh all over again. But yeah, it's little scenes like that really just did it for me. And then the fucking kicker of this whole movie, and I can't express how much I absolutely love this. On her first day at her new school, she makes a friend with someone. The fucking friend is a vampire. Oh, excuse me, is a werewolf. She made friends with a werewolf on her first day at school, and I fucking love that. I thought that was so great. And obviously, we don't get to see the kid transform or anything, but we obviously, he's got a unibrow. That's the first thing we notice. And then at one point, he's kind of scratches his hands, and we look down, and his hands are completely covered in fur. And then as he's walking away, the camera pans up and shows that the moon is full, and we hear a howl in the background, and then that's the last we see of that kid. But I just love that they interjected a little bit of another creature's mythology in here, and they live in a world where they can be friendly.
That was a really nice touch in the movie.
Wow, yeah, totally. I enjoyed that a lot. Yeah, and then the movie.
So I was gonna say it's almost as good as the relationship in What We Do in the Shadows.
Absolutely. The dichotomy between the vampires and the werewolves there. I mean, it starts out a little rough at first, but then by the end of the movie, obviously they're all friends because they got that one guy in common. And in this one, it's just that they're both kids. They're both kids at school. they recognize each other instantly because literally it's her first day at school. She's walking into the building and the werewolf kid looks at her and smiles, and then she looks back and waves at him. It's like they know that they're not human, they instantly recognize that they're something else, and they instantly bond over it. I thought
there's like an unspoken connection
Yes.
immediately. Then they don't know what it is, but they definitely both stand out to each other.
Yeah. And then our movie kind of ends with just a conversation where they're driving back home and they're talking about, Francis is basically admitting that this is all new to him, but that he's going to try to be a dad as much as he can. Basically, the movie ends with Jane complimenting his new jacket, because throughout the entire film, Jane actually makes the comment that he's dressed like Fonzie. Personally, I don't think Fonzie's all that bad a dresser. But jeans, black boots, leather jacket. I mean, it's universal. It's eternal. It's the eternally cool outfit. But anyway, she gives him a new jacket. He wears it a couple of times. She tells him, I like the new jacket. And then she asks if she can have the old one after insulting it, literally after saying, you look like Fonzie 24/7. Then she asks him for the jacket. And that's literally the end of the movie. The movie ends there, which I know is going to leave some people's heads scratching. But I just love that scene. It's such a subtle little ending. It's hope. It's hopeful. The fact that they're going to try to have a normal life. Obviously, we know they're doomed. Eventually, just like with anything else, once a community finds out that you're different, they're going to come after you. Be it you're a monster, you're a different race, you're a different color, whatever the case may be, certain communities are going to go after you. So you already know they're doomed, but the movie ends on such a hopeful high note that it leaves you feeling good. And I love that about the movie. It doesn't leave me thinking about the shit that they're going to have to deal with in the future. Just the fact that right now, they're a happy family and they're going to act like a happy family. And, it's heartwarming. And then, did you guys watch the credits? Did you finish off the credits? There's not a post-credit scene, but at the end of the credits, there's a radio host who comes on, and it's one of the funniest parts of the whole movie. It's the only thing that maybe made me laugh out loud. And basically, this radio DJ is talking about, have you heard about the epidemic of monsters driving monster cars? And, he's like, monster cars weren't meant for monsters. They were meant for good American human drivers. And he's talking about, I've heard about werewolves in the community. I've heard about mummies disrespecting the flag and using the American flag as bandages for them. I mean, the guy is fucking hysterical. And then the whole broadcast ends with him selling some kind of like garlic spray. So basically he says, buy my spray it all over every hot rod, every, muscle car that you see. And we're going to keep them away from the vampires. And it just ends like that. And then he gives an 800 number where you can order your spray. But I thought that was fucking hysterical. We don't see it. Like I said, it's just the audio at the end of the film, but that made me laugh out loud. I mean, that was funny as hell to me, because that DJ, he's probably a conspiracy theory douchebag, but in this particular instance, he's right. I loved it.
Yeah, when I heard that, it reminded me of like if you ever play the GTA games, how they make the talk radio stations now, and it's usually like wild exaggerations of what you would hear on actual talk radio, and it reminded me of that. Like it would fit in right there with like all the other stuff on those radio channels.
Yeah, exactly. I just realized that the goat got a credit in the movie. The goat's name was Deuce, and yes, the goat does survive the movie, so that's always good. Animals in horror movies never do well, so it's nice to see the goat survive. That's pretty much it, folks. Like I said, there's not really much to the film. We skipped a couple of scenes here and there, but you got the gist of it. I still recommend the movie. It sounds like all three of us recommend it. It's, like I said, it's a sweet little movie. Maybe something to watch with younger horror fans, or just something to watch by yourself. Like I said, if you like good performances, good scores, organic characters, good story progression, this is the movie for you. I had a really good time with it.
Yeah, same here.
Same all around. All right. Well, that's going to do it for our discussion on blood relatives, but let's find out where else we can hear all of us. So, Venom, we'll start with you. What do you got out now?
Okay, fresh off the presses, literally released today, is No More Room in Hell presents Creature Comforts, episode 13, where Don, Derek, and myself look at 1973's The Golden Voyage of Sinbad. It's our first look at a Ray Harryhausen movie, so, it's odd that it took us to the second year of our Creature podcast to actually get to a Harryhausen movie, but we finally did it. And I'm pretty sure you're all going to know what we're going to say about it, so I'll leave it at that. But that episode is officially available today. As you hear this episode, go ahead and check that out. That'll be available wherever you get the No More Room in Hell shows. Main show, unfortunately, postponed again. No More Room in Hell episode 49 will have to be postponed for another week. Let's hope we can get together this weekend and take a look at that, because I'd like to do that movie before the end of the month, because November is Italian horror month, and we picked Italian horror movies for the episode. So hopefully we can get it done before the month is over. But, it's looking, obviously today's already the 28th. So it's not looking good, but it'll be our early December episode before we do our annual Christmas commentary. And that's pretty much it. We didn't record an episode of Crystal Lake Gift Shop in October for obvious reasons. We're horror podcasters. We're all busy in October. So that'll, Mike and I will get together to do the third episode of the Crystal Lake Gift Shop, looking at the third episode of Friday the 13th, the series. What else do we have? I think that's about it. Yeah, that's it. It's been for podcasting, October was slow, but that's only because we were busy with 10,000 other things in October. So hopefully we'll get back to our standard schedule, and, we'll have a steady flow of new episodes coming out soon. But of course, you can always count on fresh cuts every single week.
All right, Don, how about you? What do you got?
All right, as mentioned, we have No More Room in Hell presents Creature Comforts. Almost did the wrong show there. Cut myself. Yeah, that is officially available as of the day we are recording this. Venom didn't specify that it's available the day we're recording, not the day it's released, but it is available for you all. As mentioned, it should be pretty obvious where we stand on that, but don't let that deter you from a good conversation. Or fun co-host, for that matter. So go ahead and give that a listen. I do have news that my guest spot on the nightclub, where we looked at the Beyond, is available again today as of the day we're recording this. A lot of fun. I got to hang out with them again, and I got to showcase my love for the second favorite film of all time for me. So that was a lot of fun. Still no word on House by the Cemetery, but that one should be available within the coming weeks, so I'll definitely keep you updated on that. And I'm pleased to say that the season 2 launch, or I should say call for guests for season 2 launch of Horror Countdown, is going so well I can't keep up with everything, and I'm in the midst of responding back to people while we record this, so I'm multitasking my ass off as we speak. So definitely looking forward to getting that going. Several guest spots have already been set up as for, and getting a date and a topic going, so that should be available to you all at the start of the new year. So like we did for season 1, looking to launch in first week of January 2023. So be on the lookout for that. But on that, not much else.
All right. Yeah, as far as I go, my schedule's been pretty clear lately. Family holidays stuff, so my time's usually occupied when I'm not doing the small amount of podcasting I am right now. But there's always things in the works. I feel like it's that time of the year where it's hard to fit anything extra in other than what you regularly do, and even some of the regular stuff is hard. Evidenced by the fact that it's been so long since the main show has been recorded. But I feel like by that same token, with the new year coming up it's always like new ideas start sprouting. Like, oh, what other things can I do? I was looking at the schedule too. It looks like that Megan movie is going to be the first Fresh Cuts episode.
Exactly.
um,
I mean, it's a killer doll movie. I mean, not a killer doll, killer droid, I guess, whatever. I haven't seen the trailer, but I've seen
Close enough. Close enough.
I've seen some stills from it. The doll looks mildly creepy, so yeah, I'm mildly excited to see it. I'm not the biggest fan of killer dolls and killer toy movies, but I give them all a chance.
I just hope it gets ridiculous because to me it's I am someone who still watches trailers, so I have seen the trailer and I feel like there's the potential there that if they really go for it in like the third act, because that's how I assume it will go, you kind of set it up that way. If they don't hold back, I think it could end up being fun, but I just hope they don't like go the timid route, but we'll see. But as far as we go, I'm pretty sure next week or next episode we're doing Violent Night, right? That's the theatrical Christmas.
I believe so. Yep.
I think it looks like a home invasion type movie. But
is it?
Anyways,
I'm not sure. Is that the one with David Harbour?
Is that the Stranger Things guy?
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not the Joe Bagos one.
Joe Bagos.
Yeah, the Joe Bagos one. The Joe Bagos one is Christmas Bloody Christmas, which thank you for reminding me. That is my film for Cut to the Chasemas.
Oh, nice! You get to review it twice.
Yeah. That one is going to Shudder. Is that correct?
Right.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Bagos. Shudder loves Joe Bagos. I think they premiere all his movies.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm hyped.
After Bliss, I think they have. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think they did VFW and
Bliss. Yeah. I saw VFW in the theater just because I'm in LA, but they did show Bliss and VFW on Shudder, so I think they premiered them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well,
No Moods will be happy. Moods is the only guy I know who likes Joe Bagos more than me, so I know he's excited.
Yeah, that's crazy. So we're starting off the December right away with Christmas horror, and we didn't have to look far because it's in the theater. So
love it.
Two Christmas horror, two killer Santa movies back to back. Nice.
All right. Well, with that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you, everybody, for listening. I hope you had a nice Thanksgiving and all, and get geared up for the next holiday. So let's say bye to the listeners.
Later.
If you want to send me Thanksgiving leftovers, my address is forget it. Just have a good night, folks.
Peace.